MTL Sports podcast coming in episode 102, y'all. We're almost done with the season recaps and off-season previews. We have four more teams to go over tonight. We got the Suns, we got the Timberwolves, we got the Knicks, and we got the Milwaukee Bucks. All playoff teams, but they all have their own different shares of problems. So we'll go through each of those teams, let you know how we think their season went and how they can improve. No Game 6. Mavericks kind of fell apart in Game 5. Celtics are your new NBA champs. We'll recap the series very briefly also. So very sad, no more basketball until the Olympics, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, so with all that being said, y'all, stay tuned. Let's get started. Quick recap of the NBA Finals. This series only went 5 games. I was expecting a shootout. I was expecting a dogfight. I was expecting, a 7-game series. Even though I think I said Mavericks in 6. I think, Lawrence, you said Mavericks in 7. We both were wrong. Celtics in 5. What can we say about this series, Lawrence? It seemed like, Celtics, they had an easy road, right? Didn't really have any, real competition in the East. A lot of, their matchups, their best player got hurt, which isn't their fault, but, they really didn't have a challenge. And then you look at the Dallas Mavericks in the West, the 5th seed, got hot late, heading into the playoffs, then they took care of the Clippers, right? Then they took care of the Baby Thunder. And then they took out Ant-Man and the Wolves that took out the last year's champs, the Nuggets. So going into it, the Mavericks were hot, and they sizzled out. How do you look back on this series?
Honestly, you could look at it a few ways, right? You could look at it in the aspect that the Celtics didn't have to play anyone, which also means they didn't get it tired out throughout the series at any point in the Eastern Conference. You can look at it the same way as the Mavs got burnt out during the Western Conference because of the gauntlet you had to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also just look at the fact that the Celtics are just too damn deep as a roster for, no offense, but for Luka and Kyrie to handle. Because it was very apparent that those are the only 2 players that came to play when it came to the finals and most of the games. It just feels like nothing that the Mavericks could do was meaningful or impactful. Like I said before, like the I guess the 6-man role that Tim Hardaway had on this team going into the playoffs, and then what he did during the playoffs should be studied. This man didn't do a thing in the playoffs. I think he had one good game against the Thunder, and that was literally it. The entire playoffs. Kid should be questioned up and down, left and right over the usage of Kleba.
Yeah.
He didn't look good at any point once he came back from injury. So it was kind of hard to understand why he was even back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should have just kept him on the bench and just rode the wave of what was going to happen because he didn't change anything about the game. If anything, he just made everything worse because he couldn't do anything. That's just how irrelevant of a player he was during the series. So if I have any way to, review this series, it was just all around I guess I kind of said it in the chat the other day the best. It's just all around the Mavericks team that went hot and won all those games in this season was not the Mavericks team that came to the playoffs. And the fact that that's what we were provided in the playoffs is a little disappointing.
Yeah, because, going into the finals, they were red hot, and they were playing some damn good defense. They locked up the number 1 defensive team. And when we talk about the Timberwolves, they were playing better defense than them at times, So
Mm-hmm.
they were making it tough for them. And also they opened up points against the Timberwolves, which I guess, I mean, that showcased how much offensive potential they have as well, right? But just for whatever reason, and maybe just because the Celtics are just that good, they just fizzled out. They had a good game four, won in, just a beat down fashion, just won by 38, right? Like the third largest margin of victory in a finals game. Um, but I mean, coming back to game five, I don't know what it is, but they just didn't have it. So I, I'm going to echo what you said. I think the biggest thing is, the bench production from Dallas. They just didn't show up, or if a person did, it's just for like a game. Like one game, it will be Lively. Like, okay, Lively might have a double-double one game. The next game, he's nowhere to be found. Then one game, Gafford might give you a couple blocks and give you some easy lobs. And the next game, he's gone. And he's just too inconsistent. And then we look at Kyrie. I said going into the series, right? This man has to score 25 plus every night if they want to win. The one game that they win, game four, he had like 23, I believe. So, I mean, you see how much he's needed on the offensive side, and not to say he's a liability on defense, but if you're not giving anything offensively, then why are you playing? Even though you're the best player or the second best player, like why are you playing? He had 21 in game four, so I mean, you need to score at least 21 and win one game. So that just tells you how much they need him offensively. And then we go look at Jason Kidd. His coaching was questionable. Reminds me a lot of like Monty Williams a couple years ago against the Bucks, the Suns versus Bucks, where Monty refused to build the wall against Giannis for the whole duration of the series. Wanted DeAndre Ayton to go 1-on-1 versus Giannis. Wanted no parts of double teaming him, no parts of just collapsing early. Building the wall that Miami did and some other teams have. So reminded me a lot of that, and just the fact that Jason Kidd's just stubborn, didn't play Tim Hardaway. I think that's part of the reason why Lawrence, he didn't really look like the Tim Hardaway that he's supposed to be, because like Jason Kidd just had on a leash that was so short that the man just like looked at J Kidd wrong. He just didn't play him. So J Kidd just so stubborn. Like you said, he played Kleba, even though like I don't know if you watched Game 5, but Game 5, when he chucked up those couple of threes, they just look like they ain't look like his normal shot form. He's like pushing the ball instead of like actually shooting it. I was just like, bro, his shoulder still hurts. He's like forcing the ball into some awkward like shot motion. I was like, he's clearly can't play, and he can't move his feet, so he's not even playing defense. And during that stretch, the Mavs were actually, I want to say, were single digit behind, but as soon as he got in and they played extended minutes, they were back down to double digits. I'm like, come on, like the coaching was questionable. So I think those two things played a big part. I don't give any fault to Luka. The man's been playing on one leg for like the past 3 rounds. I don't give any fault to him. He probably did as best as he could. He just didn't have teammates to show up, which has been it's honestly been the theme for the past 2 playoff runs. He went to the finals, no help. Went to the Western Conference Finals, no help. At some point, when are you going to build a team that is consistently good around Luka? Because the man is the third, probably top 3 player in the NBA. You got to build a good team around him. Not saying they haven't, but they haven't built a consistently good team around him. So I'm not going to put too much on him.
I mean, I wouldn't even say they built a good team around him at all, and kind of until this year. I mean, before it was mainly just kind of low key journeymen and undrafted players, kind of like trying to do a Heat thing without the Heat brand. I mean, before his running mate was Jalen Brunson, which was the unproven version of Jalen Brunson, not the new proven version of Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
And I think they'll regret that decision, ever letting Jalen Brunson walk. Especially for the money that he was asking for and now what production he has.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like I think Jalen Brunson was a great number 2 to Luka. I think it was overlooked at that period of time.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
if they had other players around them like they do now, I think it would have been completely different. Whether or not Kyrie would have fit on the team with Brunson and Luka, who knows? But regardless of that, I mean, it's not like Kyrie showed up in the finals at all, but at least if I had PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., and Gafford running with Jalen Brunson and Luka, I would have felt way more confident just from the sheer. Brunson's going to make sure he gets 30, especially in an important playoff game. Like, Brunson's going to make sure he gets 30. If Luka and Brunson both make sure they get 30, that's 60. Like, we're golden. It's like we're halfway there.
Yeah, no, I think they played well off each other. Mark Cuban and the front office definitely, like you said, they're going to regret that decision. Looking at the Celtics side, not much to say. They were the best team all year. Best team had the best record, right, in the NBA all season. The deepest team, and they're set up for success. Even though they're going to be in luxury tax and they're going to be a second apron team, they still got guys signed for 2-3 more years. So I don't foresee like anything that that's going to go wrong with them. It's just a matter of are other teams in the East going to be able to catch up to them? I think that's the biggest question we gotta ask ourselves, right?
Agreed.
That's pretty much it about the finals. Jaylen Brown was the finals MVP. No shock to me. He played the best for the most amount of games. I feel like JT came on late, but Jaylen Brown played consistently well throughout the whole finals. So I'm not mad at that.
I thought it was very interesting when JT, like, he went from like thinking it was going to be him to hearing it was Brown. And in my head, I was like, boy, you weren't even number 2. Drew Holiday was definitely number 2 in the running. You weren't even top 2. You were supposed to be the best player on the team, and you were not even top 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. If they weren't going to give it to JB, Drew was definitely the next guy I was going to, put a bet on to win because he was good all 5 games playing defense, and then giving the Mavericks work on the offensive side too. So, yeah, Tatum, we'll see in the future what it looks like for him. But let's move on to these all season previews. I think first we got who we got first. We got the Suns. Now the Suns surprisingly have a pick, even though I thought they did not. I think I've been saying for the past few times we've been mentioning the Suns, I've been saying they didn't have any picks. Apparently they do have one this year. Their one and only pick is number 22. Their team is very, very top heavy. With Kevin Durant, Booker, Beal, and they only have to pay Royce O'Neal. Their luxury tax is going to be off the chain. Other than that, I don't see how they can add to their team because, like I said, they don't have picks, and you're going to have to rely on guys to come play for the cheap. The guys who play on the cheap are usually unproven or very old, so I don't see how Phoenix is going to get any better. But Lawrence, what do you think Phoenix is going to do this offseason to try to get better? Because they had a disappointing first round exit.
Honestly, the best thing they could ever do is, I don't see how they can trade for one, but I have to draft one. They just need a 3-and-D facilitator point guard.
That's a
It's the
tough
only thing
ask.
you can do. It's the only thing you can do to try to get a player. And honestly, where are you going to find that player? I don't know, because I guess you're one draft too late for. In my opinion, I think what is it, Jaime Jaquez? He would have fit really good with this team. I don't need you to score a lot of points. I need you to play defense and just pass the ball efficiently. I think the problem with the team is when they asked Devin Booker to be the point guard, doesn't work out. That's not his forte. That's not what he, started the league doing. Bradley Beal is definitely not point guard material. He's always been a shooting guard. So the fact that you got basically 2 shooting guards on a team and you're top heavy with those 2 shooting guards, not ideal. And then who else you can get to play point guard? I guess you can try to ask Kevin Durant to play point guard. Like I said again, never played point guard before. How do you expect it to work? I don't know. But that's the one thing this team needs, is a point guard that can play defense. Just pass the ball and play defense. It ain't gonna happen. In the most ideal world, you're gonna have to find a place to send Bradley Beal to make some money back, and cut your losses because it ain't gonna work. It just isn't. Plain as day ain't gonna work. And you move forward from there.
I agree. I said it when this trade first happened last year around this time. I said this is not going to work. They don't have a point guard. You can't force Bradley Beal to be a point guard, even when he played the point in DC. Right, the man only had like 6 or 7 assists. You need a point guard. You need a guy that's going to get the ball to all three of them, and still you need him to, like you said, 3 and D, and probably average 8 or 9 assists. They got the shooters. They just don't have a distributor. That's their biggest problem. I feel like the defense, you can probably win without super good defense, right? I don't feel like in today's NBA you need to have a number one defense to win. We saw the Dallas Mavericks; they didn't have number one defense, but they got, they held strong on defense going into the playoffs. And I feel like that's the mentality you need to have. So the Suns can probably operate somewhat close to the Mavericks model. Well, okay, we're going to score a lot of points, and then crunch time, we're gonna lock down defense. I feel like that's the model they need to try to replicate. Like I said, it starts with the point guard, someone who can distribute, someone who can also not even lock down, just someone who reliably can defend. Because they don't really have defenders on this starting lineup besides maybe Grayson Allen. I wouldn't even say Grayson Allen's a great defender either. I think he's just good enough to be, viable, right? And then Nurkic, he can defend bigs, but Nurkic isn't really giving you too much on offense, at least in this system. So I don't see how they improve with pick 22 in this draft. I don't see a particular player that's going to help them immediately. So maybe they try to move that pick, package it with with whatever guys they can move. But honestly, I see the Suns in the same situation. First round exit team, unless they get a favorable matchup, maybe against like the Pelicans or some team that's going to come up and it's kind of iffy. Maybe they can make a second round appearance, but I just feel like they're stuck in purgatory until they themselves can finally come to the point that, okay, trading for Beal was a mistake. Let's try to regain at least some of our assets, but that's gonna be tough because Bradley Beal has a no trade clause. So if you're gonna trade him again, you got to ask his permission. So they honestly are, they're screwed. They really are screwed. That's pretty much it. But the Suns, not too much else to go off of. Let's move on though to the who's next? Suns. Then we get the Bucks. And then the Bucks are in a similar situation, y'all. They do have their pick this year, but I'm pretty sure in terms of picks, they don't really have too much going forward, though. They will have a full, I guess, training camp for a year with Doc Rivers after getting rid of Adrian Griffin halfway through the season. So maybe he's going to rearrange some things. Maybe some people will leave. All indications are that they're probably going to try to run it back. So, Lawrence, how would you grade the Bucks season, and where do they need to go to get back to the Bucks that we know, which is making to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, I'd probably give them like a C. I mean, they were supposed to go. They were supposed to be like in the hunt for the title, the championship, and it just didn't happen in the slightest. And the next thing, honestly, if you want to make this team better and you want to and you want to work with what you have and move forward, in my opinion, I think Chris Middleton has to go. Yeah, he was good. He was good while you had him in that run to the final, but every season he's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little disappointing that Chris Middleton's still there and Drew Holiday's not there. I thought Drew Holiday is a little bit more important than him. I mean, sure, Chris Middleton can get you some points, but isn't that the point of bringing in Damian Lillard, was to get points? So now what is the real purpose of Chris Middleton? And honestly, the fact that he's never available when it matters the most is a liability. So going into the season, honestly, I can just look at it and go, dang, if I don't have Chris Middleton's cap hit against the team and have a few more depth pieces to add instead of just using him. I mean, let's face it, Pat Connaughton was literally being the starting small forward anyways because Middleton was never playing. He was always hurt.
Yeah.
What's the difference in the team? Just add some depth to every position that you have. I mean, if you get rid of Chris Middleton, you're adding depth in pretty much everywhere. Next part, it might be controversial, but like Brook Lopez has slowly been declining. It might be time to like cut the cord, be okay with it. Bobby Portis should be able to fill the hole. I mean, Bobby Portis does look effective in a lot of games that he's in.
Yeah.
Now let's see if he put it to more of a starter use instead of a bench use. But then again, if you're getting rid of Brook Lopez, that's a lot of money coming off the books. That's money you can spend on other players, improve depth. It just all goes full circle about they have to make the team deeper for when the injuries do happen, the team doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, I agree with you. The team is just over the years, ever since the championship year, you just seen the depth decrease year after year. Mainly because they have to pay people, right? I mean, if you pay people, of course, some people have to go, but they got to the point now where people want to decline instead of the incline, or at least I rather have people on plateauing instead of declining. And I think you hit it on the money. Brook Lopez, I think for the first time, we've seen the actual decline. I feel like last year, runner up for defensive player of the year, you're like, oh, okay, Brook Lopez could definitely play for another 2-3 years. And then this season, you're like, I don't think Brook Lopez has it in him for another 2-3 seasons. So I think he's on an expiring deal. Maybe you use that deal to take on some more money, but just get a younger guy to play center. And I don't know who's out there that fits that mold, but they could do that. They also could just let it expire after next season and then just roll with Bobby Portis and extend him. He's extension eligible. Bobby Portis deserves a chance to start. And when he does start, he does pretty decent job. I don't feel like Bobby Portis is a bum by any standards. So maybe that's something they should look forward to. And I agree with you, Chris Middleton. He needs to go, bro. He's just hurt all the damn time. And then in the big moments, he's just not the old Chris Middleton of the finals. Yeah, he doesn't have it in him anymore. He's up there in age. Yeah, he just signed an extension. So it's gonna be hard to trade him. And you don't have any first round picks besides this year to send out to entice the team to take that contract. So it's gonna be tough to really find another spot for him. But if they can and open that up for either Pat or just whoever they can bring in back from that trade to kind of be that starter at the 3, they'll be better off. And they also need to find a steady 2 guard. I feel like Pat Bev isn't the answer. Malik Beasley isn't really the answer either. Grayson Allen kind of fit that role for them, so I feel like they need to find a starting caliber shooting guard that fits alongside Dame, preferably someone who can play defense. Because Pat Bev would be the ideal fit if he could shoot better and actually, score a little bit better. But, that's not Pat Bev. And his antics are kind of getting the best of him. So, if they can find that, replacement out there, that'll be good. But if not, the Bucks are more or less the Suns, where they're probably another first round exit because there's just not much they can do to improve. Next up, y'all, I think we have the Timberwolves, if I'm not mistaken. No, we have the Knicks. So the Knicks have 24 and 25, back-to-back picks. The Knicks are interesting because I feel like the Knicks, where are the Knicks? I had them pulled up. The Knicks are interesting because I feel like the Knicks can still improve because some money has come off the books. They got rid of OG, or no, they have OG, but they added OG. I'm sorry. They added OG. They might lose Hartenstein. They got rid of quickly, so they didn't have to pay out that contract. And Brunson's contract is actually very cheap for how much production he's given out. So I feel like the Knicks are in a decent spot right now. I feel like they really only have to focus on re-signing OG. He's probably going to command probably close to 30 to 35 million. So if you can find a reasonable spot where the money is, I feel like you re-sign him. Then they have 10 first-round picks over the next 7 years. So plenty of trade bait if they want to go make a move. But honestly, I feel like they don't. Lawrence, how you feel about the Knicks? Do they need to go make a big splash this summer, or can they just run this team back with Julius Randle coming back healthy, and kind of compete against the Celtics?
But is Julius Randle going to stay healthy?
That's the big question. It seems like he never does, right?
Yeah, so we're talking about a per universe. Yes, you run it back because, like we said, Julius Randle will be healthy. But Julius Randle never stays healthy, so it's never running it back with Julius Randle. So what you have to do is, to answer your question, yes, I think they do need to bring in an important piece to the puzzle. Where that piece lies, I don't know. That's for them to find out, not me. However, as a great trade asset and money filler for a good player, we can offer you a bunch of first round picks and Julius Randle. Our monies will match, and you'll get a bunch of picks. I think it's a win-win, So whoever wants to give up that piece to provide you the next step in the development of this team, but I think Julius Randle has to go because I honestly I saw a poll in which it was like overrated players based on the players voting.
Yeah.
And Julius Randle was like number 4 and overrated players based on the players voting.
Oh man.
I mean, that just goes to show that the players don't think he's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And players probably don't think he's very good because he's always hurt. And to be honest with you, the man's only had one season in which he looked amazing. And what was that? Was it his first or second season with the Knicks?
Might have been his first.
Outside of that, he's never looked amazing. But that's only because he could put together a whole season healthy. That's the biggest thing. He's never put a whole season together healthy. But no, you got all these draft picks. This team is good now to win. It has some pieces here and there. But they just need another star. They need another bona fide bucket getter. Where are you going to find that? Maybe you beg Cleveland to give you Donovan Mitchell? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I feel like there's only a certain archetype of a player that's going to work, for New York. I don't feel like it's a Donovan Mitchell. I feel like it would just be Garland and him all over again, even though in this case, we know for a fact, Brunson's a bona fide superstar. So, even though you have that going with you, I still don't feel like they're going to mesh very well. Two small guys on the court, they're just going to get, they're going to get kind of picked on. It's just going to be one after the other. Oh, let's go pick on Brunson. Oh, next play, let's go pick on Donovan. I feel like that's not going to work. Especially in Tibbs' system, I feel like he kind of likes bigger guards, so I feel like he wouldn't go that route. So maybe if they can sign and trade for PG, maybe. But then again, are the Clippers going to work with the Knicks? Don't really know. And do the Clippers want anything that the Knicks have? Do the Clippers really want Julius Randle? No, probably not. The Clippers already have injury problems. Why would they add another injury-prone guy? Doesn't really make sense. So we'll see what they do on the trade front. I feel like for now though, they probably just gotta re-sign OG Bogdan. I don't really care if you bring him back or not. I feel like he had a decent season with the Knicks after he got traded, but he's another guy that gets hurt a lot, so you can probably just move off of him, save some money, and then just hope that Julius Randle doesn't get hurt. Or if he does get hurt, make it earlier in the season so, towards the playoffs, he can actually participate and help out Brunson. Because Brunson, when it came down to it in the playoffs, he really didn't have too much help other than DiVincenzo. And Hart was like, what, on one leg, or his abdomen was hurting him or something like that. So
Hart was playing every minute of the finals. Hart had every reason to be completely destroyed.
Yeah. And then that goes along with it, the depth. They need more pieces, more guys, so that they don't have to play 48 minutes in the playoffs. They need more guys to step up so Tibbs can trust them, and the 6-man rotation can maybe get to like 7 or 8. Because it just killed him in the end, because all those minutes just added up and the guys just started dropping. So I feel like that's another thing they need to work on. And last but not least, I want to say we had the Timberwolves pick 27. Wizards pick again at 26. The Timberwolves are an interesting spot. All their players, all their big names, extensions are going to kick in, so I don't think they'll have any cap space. They still have some picks, pick 27. So we'll see what they do with that. Like I said, this draft isn't too deep, so they're really going to be looking for diamonds in the rough. And they're going to be in the luxury tax, $200 million in salary. They have an ownership fight right now between A-Rod and who's the owner right now? I forgot his name. Glenn Taylor, Mark Lord, and A-Rod are kind of fighting over who gets majority ownership. I think it's going to court, so that might also play into it, depending. Because I think the original owner is very, very cheap. I don't think he's paid the luxury tax once. So if he stays in control, chances are he's probably going to try and trade Gobert or Cat to try to stay under the luxury tax, and that would kind of derail this team that actually just got that core group to actually start playing well. So, Lawrence, with all that being said, keeping all that in mind, how would you rate their season, and then what do you think they should do next for this offseason?
Well, I'd probably give their season an A. Because they weren't supposed to be where they were, and they weren't supposed to be the number one team in the West for most of the season like they were.
Yeah.
Next part about the team, though, I don't think there's a whole lot this team has to do. I mean, obviously they were a good enough team to make it as far as they did in the playoffs. Honestly, I think they were a better team than the Mavs were. I just think the Mavs have kind of been a little bit more of been there, done that with the players they had and the maturity of the team. And the Timberwolves, like you said, like they haven't done anything in a few years. I mean, the only guy who has any kind of like experience, fighting deep into the playoffs is Conley. And
Gobert too. I guess Gobert.
Didn't Gobert just get bounced all the time at Utah? And that was the whole point of the scuffle between him and Donovan Mitchell, is they always just get bounced early.
No, they made the second round like a couple times, I think.
And Gobert's just a playoff clown. So, like I said before, I'm just gonna put all the credit to Conley, being the only guy on the team who has like any kind of experience in the playoffs. I think this was important for them to go on this deep of a run to get them that experience. And I can't see how this team doesn't have the ability to go back to the Western Conference playoffs. But if I was to do anything to fix this team up, it would just be rearranging some depth on the bench pieces. Like, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy me some Kyle Anderson.
Slow-mo.
But that man, I don't know. There's just something about him that just says, like, that kind of, he's just not going to be on an NBA Finals team.
Oh, okay.
He's
too slow for you?
It's just like, there's no offensive threat. I mean, there was multiple points in the games where they were just like, okay, even if he does go for a layup, he'll still miss. I mean, that's literally how teams would play him. Like, oh, even if he goes for a layup, he's still going to miss. What's the point? All you got to do is play 5-on-4. Don't worry about him. And he would literally go for a layup and then try to pass out of it. Man, you just either this all season they're going to sit him down and go, hey, learn how to shoot and learn how to score. That's your only weakness, or we're gonna have to move off you, bud, and we're gonna have to bring in something that can bring us some points off the bench. Because yeah, Nas Reed's fun off the bench, but he's kind of like a big getting points. You know what I mean? He's a big man getting points.
Yeah.
They need a younger guy, not a younger guy. Sorry. They need a smaller guy to make points as well off the bench.
Yeah, I agree with you. I give them an A first off to grade their season. They got to the point where they weren't supposed to be, number one for most of the year. Um, beat the Nuggets, beat the last year's champs in the game 7 on the Nuggets home court, which is very impressive. So I give them an A. Now, when it comes to next season, what do I expect them to stay in pat, and just run it back because they're like, oh, we're young. We're only going to get better with experience. Why not just run it back? You could say that, but I think the best course is honestly, I think you got to trade Cat or Gobert. I don't think I don't think they can play together, but can they win together? I don't think so. And that's the difference. Yeah, you could play together, and this year it looked like they finally meshed. It was like, oh, okay, Gobert and Cat can actually work. This team is really good on defense. They got twin towers, all that good stuff. But on the flip side, in the playoffs, when they both didn't give you anything offensively, they were kind of useless because they both were getting exposed on defense. So in that case, it's just like, bro, why am I paying both of you $200 million if I can't consistently rely on either one of you to score points? And then come playoff time, both of you getting exposed on the defensive side. Uh, to me, if I was building a team, my motto, would be, hey, you gotta give us something. And honestly, for a lot of the playoffs, especially during the Maverick series, those two weren't giving them anything. Cat shot awful from 3 in the Western Conference Finals.
I feel like Cat also made a lot more dumb decisions, though. I feel like Cat had a lot more dummy moments than Gobert. Also, to be fair, though, Gobert, it's hard for him to have dummy moments. He doesn't really touch the ball a whole lot.
This is true. This is true. But like you said earlier, Gobert is just a playoff clown. He just gets exposed way too much. I feel like come playoffs, he's just a liability. And then Cat, he's just too inconsistent. And maybe after another year and after how close he got to making the finals, he'll be like, okay, maybe I'll work on these things so I can be more consistent. But if I'm running the team, I would probably just change it right now. I feel like just running it back is just the lazy way. I think you should always look to improve. What they would get for Cat or Gobert, I don't know. Especially Gobert, I feel like the market for Gobert is very, very limited. So even if you try to move him, it would be very tough. But Cat, I mean, there's probably a market out there for Cat. Now, would you find someone of equal value to Cat? I'd be hard pressed to say you probably wouldn't. You're probably going to lose any trade that you do for Cat. Giving up Cat, but
I bet you
I
the
think you
Miami Heat
explore
would
it
love him.
though. Uh,
It was a joke. It was a joke.
I don't think they would honestly, but
Oh, well, Jimmy Butler would never. He'd probably kill him before he walked
yeah,
on that team.
yeah,
But
that
yeah,
would
if I was to give up a player, I kind of have to trust the judgment of Jimmy Butler from back in the day. I mean, he said this guy doesn't play hard and he doesn't try very hard. We've kind of seen, Cat be kind of like a gamer on the computer. Obviously, he probably doesn't try that hard when he's gaming all the time. You don't see the same stuff out of Gobert. Maybe Gobert does something on the side we don't know about, but I've seen way more of Cat, and Cat has been publicly outed by a superstar in the NBA for the lack of terms being lazy, piece of crap. So if he had a lot of dumb mistakes this offseason, and you try to run it back next season, and as the season goes on, and you notice he's still making dumb mistakes. If he's making dumb mistakes during the season, you might as well just know he's going to do it in the playoffs, and you might as well get something that's not going to do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's a problem that if they don't address it this offseason, it's just going to be like a reoccurring thing. Like, okay, yeah, we run it back, but then next season in the playoffs, the same thing is going to happen. So we're just kind of kicking the can down the road. I don't want it to happen like that. I wish, that they actually do get over the hump and get to the finals. But the way just Cat has been over the past couple of years, I don't see anything in him that suggests that he's going to change and actually take, take basketball, seriously as much as he does. Because some games he takes it very seriously, like, oh wow, this guy's what, top three big, and then the next game you're like, why is he playing? So, the consistency is definitely a key thing for me. But I really don't see how they get better unless they hit on these draft picks or they sign some undrafted guys and kind of develop them that way. Uh, Nas Reed and Nikhil Alexander Walker coming off the bench are great, but like you said, they need a couple more depth pieces and slow mo. Slow mo ain't it? He doesn't fit a fast young team. They need a guy who can be a backup point guard and run up and down the court. So I don't think slow mo's an option. I think you just let him go. But yeah, that's all we got, folks. That was our season reviews, all season previews. I think technically we only have a few more teams. The Nuggets. I think we already did the Jazz, so I think we just got the Nuggets and the Celtics. I think we might have missed someone else, but um, we might get to those when we come back after the little 2 week break. So just be on the lookout for that episode, or it might be like a standoff video. I don't know yet, but we'll see. I'll just look forward to that. The draft is next week. I honestly don't know too much about the kids in this draft, so I don't think we're going to cover that anyway. Um, Lawrence, anything else before we head on out? I believe there's a fight night. Isn't there? There's a fight night this weekend, right? On Saturday?
Yeah, there's a fight night. I haven't looked too much into it. I do know that it was originally supposed to be Whitaker versus Bo Nickel. But instead now it's going to be, well, it's always been, it's going to be Whitaker versus Akran. So I think it'll be a fun fight night.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to go for some upsets, I'm taking Daniel Rodriguez to beat Kevin Gastelum. Mainly because Kevin's been on a losing streak. I know D-Rod lost his last fight, but he has a pretty decent record. He has some size advantage. You would call him a late bloomer in the UFC. But honestly, at this point, Kevin Gastelum, he was known for having, like, the ability to take fights or be able to fight through punches and everything. But now he's kind of lost his chin, and it's kind of started to bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
And honestly, at the odds that he is, it's really hard not to take D-Rod.
D-Rod at plus 200. That's some juice to it. I feel like that's very favorable.
It's very hard not to take D-Rod. I guess another one you could try to look forward to is taking Johnny Walker. I see him right there. Johnny Walker would be a very good pick to add to your play. I think Johnny Walker's a little bit slept on. I think he's getting a favorable matchup here. Honestly, this just feels like more filler for him to fight in order to try to get him a better fight in the future. I think they were trying to get his face a little bit out there a little bit more in order to push his name a little harder. Honestly, the rest of the card, though, I mean, everything up and down, it doesn't look like a bad card. It honestly doesn't. It doesn't look very bad at all. But am I going to put down everything I'm doing this weekend and watch it? I can't guarantee that because it's in the middle of the day because it's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But if I was a big betting man, I'd take Johnny Walker, I'd take D-Rod, and I go back and forth between Whitaker and Akron. But I mean, honestly, I don't know how to pick this main event. everything is saying to bet against Whitaker. And pretty much in those fights, when you bet against Whitaker, he wins. So it's just a position you probably don't want to put yourself into.
Yeah, it's tough. Also gonna be tough kind of watching this, like you say. It's in the middle of the day. Yeah, I know sports is kind of on the light side now with NBA being done, but still 3 o'clock fight night. I don't know about that one, Chief, but they got to get that money from somewhere, right? So hopefully you guys check it out. I think I will be on an airplane when this is going on, so I don't think I'll be able to watch it. So, uh, yeah, I think that's all we got, folks. I don't have anything else. Remember, we are gone for the next 2 weeks, so just look out. We'll have some videos coming out. Like I said, the collab, 100 episode collab video is going to come out sometime soon, probably next week, just to fill in the gaps. But be on the lookout for all that good stuff. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. MTL Sports Podcast, episode 102. We're gonna head on out. Have a good one, y'all. See you in 2 weeks. Peace.
Peace out.